Hey everyone, today I want to talk about something that is a really popular dream online, something many of us, especially in our 20s, fantasize about. It is quitting your regular job and diving headfirst into your own business. We see it everywhere, the allure of unlimited money, complete freedom, traveling the world, extravagant vacations, and just doing whatever you want, whenever you want. The idea of ditching the 9 to 5 is at an all-time high, and honestly, who would not want that kind of life? I certainly did when I was younger. When I was in college, I totally bought into this dream. I thought, you know what? I will start my own company, and I will never have to deal with a boss or a fixed schedule. That sounded like pure bliss to me. So I actually took action. I created an Instagram account centered around a hero from my childhood, and it blew up. I gained over 20,000 followers, which felt massive at the time. Then I even wrote and self-published a children's book after it launched. I actually had some decent success. It was not overnight riches, but it was enough to make me feel like I was on the right track. Like I had cracked the code to entrepreneurship, but here is where the shiny dream started to show its cracks. To keep that business going, to maintain the momentum, I had to pour in so much of my time, effort, and crucially, my money. It was relentless. This was not some passive income stream. It was a hungry beast that ate up every spare moment and dollar I had, and because of that, other parts of my life started to suffer pretty badly. My grades, which I used to care a lot about, started to slip. I had less and less energy to hang out with friends, to socialize, which is super important when you are in your 20s. And get this, I was literally spending all the money I earned from my tech internship, which was supposed to be my savings, on running Instagram ads to keep the book sales going. It was a terrible, terrible balance. I was constantly stressed, always working, always thinking about the business. Eventually, I hit a wall. I realized this was not the freedom I had envisioned. This was just a different kind of trap, so I made a tough decision. I decided to shut down the business. I needed to focus on getting a stable job, something that would offer me a better, more sustainable balance in life. It felt like a failure at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made, since that moment of stepping away from my entrepreneurial attempt. I have been working in corporate 9 to 5 roles that is since 2018, and honestly, it has been absolutely crucial for my personal growth and for building a network. It might not be the glamorous story you read about on Forbes, but it has been incredibly valuable. So today, I want to share the less talked about dark side of running your own business and what I have actually gained from working in corporate America. I think it is a perspective that many people, especially those dreaming of leaving their jobs, need to hear. Let us start with the dark side of starting a business. The first major point, and this is a sobering one, is the business failure rate. I mean, we always hear about the success stories, but what about the ones that do not make it? According to data from the Small Business Administration, approximately 20% of new businesses fail within their first 2 years. Think about that. 1 in 5 gone in just 2 years. It gets worse, 45% fail within the first 5 years, and a whopping 65% are gone within 10 years. These are not just statistics. These are real people, real dreams, real effort, and real money that just vanished. These numbers really highlight the incredibly high risk nature of entrepreneurship. It is not just hard to get started, it is a constant, relentless battle to keep it afloat, and even harder to maintain that momentum as time goes on. It is a grind from day one, and it never truly stops. Which brings me to the second point, constant hours in order to keep your business alive. Especially in those fragile early days, you are going to be putting in an insane amount of hours. We call it sweat equity. And trust me, it is a lot of sweat. You will likely be working way more than the standard United States 40-hour work week, 40 hours. That will feel like a vacation. You will be working nights, weekends, holidays, whenever you can to make things happen. This kind of dedication is absolutely necessary in the beginning to bring in any money at all before you can even think about scaling or hiring help. It is not just about passion, it is about raw, unfiltered labor, and that means sacrificing a lot of personal time, just like I did with my grades and my social life. Then there is the third point, less money. People often dream of the vast unlimited amounts of money they will gain from starting their own business. Now, can this happen? Yes, absolutely. We see the billionaires, the successful entrepreneurs, but here's the thing. That is usually not the norm, especially for what are called non-employer businesses, which are those without any paid employees for these types of businesses. The average annual revenue is approximately $49,000. Let that sink in, $49,000. These businesses, which actually make up about 80% of all small businesses, often have lower overhead costs, which is good, but they also have very limited revenue streams. For example, small businesses with fewer than 20 employees typically generate somewhere between $387,000 and $4.9 million in annual revenue, but it can take several years to get to a point where you are making more than you would in a traditional 9 to 5 job. You are often working harder for less money for a long time. And that leads directly to my fourth point, less stability. There is very, very little predictability in your income when you run your own business. If you are at a point in your life where you need a stable, consistent income, this is a huge drawback. This is especially true for people who might be thinking of starting a family or who have other significant financial commitments like a mortgage or student loans. You might land a big client and have a fantastic payday one month feeling on top of the world. world. But then, the very next month, you could be scrambling, struggling to find work, wondering where your next paycheck is coming from. It is a constant roller coaster of emotions and financial uncertainty. On top of all that, you have to balance so many different things. It is not just about the core service or product you offer. You are the salesperson, the marketing expert, the accountant sending out invoices, the customer service representative, the IT support, you name it, you are wearing every single hat until you achieve significant success. And can hire a team, you will almost certainly have less freedom than you think. At the end of the day, you will be grinding for less money, with less stability, and spending more time working than ever before to begin with. This will severely restrict many of the freedoms you might enjoy with a traditional job. Most of the time, the successful entrepreneurs who do make it, they win this battle because of their sheer passion and an incredibly strong work ethic. It is not for the faint of heart. Now, the upside can be absolutely huge. Once you achieve success, there is no denying that. But until then, it is a real tough grind, and I definitely learned that the hard way with my first attempt at a business. Now, let us switch gears and talk about some of the benefits of a corporate or more traditional job. Because believe it or not, there are some pretty substantial advantages that often get overlooked in the glamorization of entrepreneurship. The first major benefit is stable income and benefits. These jobs come with a predictable salary and often a really good benefits package. The good news is, pretty much exactly what you are going to make every single month. That predictability is incredibly reassuring, especially when you are building your financial foundation. The bad news, or perhaps just the reality, is that it is much harder to increase your income by huge amounts very quickly. You typically get raises, bonuses, but not often massive jumps overnight. However, the benefits are a massive thing to consider. Things like health insurance, retirement plans, paid time off, these are incredibly costly if you are a solo entrepreneur and have to pay for them all yourself. For example, if you make $70,000 in a day job with benefits, you would likely need to bring in well over $100,000 as a solo entrepreneur just to cover those same benefits like insurance, healthcare, and retirement. That is a huge difference that people often forget to factor in. It is not just about the salary number. Another huge benefit of a corporate job is the growing network. The moment you join a company, you are immediately introduced to a team, to people in your specific department, and to many talented individuals across the organization. These are people with ambition, with experience, and with different skill sets. This presents a fantastic opportunity to learn from them, to connect with them, and to build a professional network. I have met so many truly great people throughout my jobs over the years. These connections are invaluable for future career opportunities, for mentorship, and even just for bouncing ideas off of. You are surrounded by people who are also striving and learning, and related to that, you get exposure to best business practices. I was incredibly fortunate to be surrounded by many talented people in my corporate roles. Because of this, my learning curve absolutely exploded. I came into my first jobs knowing very little about things like JavaScript, React, HTML, modern development processes, and so much more. But I was able to learn incredibly fast because I was placed on teams with very capable, experienced engineers. They guided me, they taught me, they reviewed my code. If I had been trying to do all of this by myself, learning everything from scratch, it would have taken me so much longer and I would have made so many more mistakes. Because of that experience, I am so much better at what I do today. I would not have had that fast learning experience if I was just trying to figure it all out on my own. Furthermore, you often have structured learning opportunities. Every company I have worked for has had dedicated time and resources specifically for improving employee skills. They will pay for it training, they will dedicate time each week for you to learn about something tech-related, and they often hold workshops, seminars, and even lunch. And learn sessions getting paid to learn new skills. That does not sound too bad, does it? It is an advantage that you do not often get when you are out there on your own. You have to seek out and pay for all that professional development yourself. Now for some final thoughts, and this is why in this YouTube video, I am adding a for now at the end of the title. I am not trying to discourage anyone or talk anyone out of following their dreams. There have been times in my life where I have seriously considered going back into business for myself again. I am just not ready yet. Financially and perhaps mentally for that level of grind. When you decide to go down the path of entrepreneurship, be sure to be realistic and really truly know the risks involved. It is a lot of hard work, often with very little pay in the beginning stages. But if you can make it past that initial grueling phase, or even better, if you can start building something while you still have your normal day job, the payoff can be absolutely massive. You might eventually reach a point where you never have to work for anyone else again. There is unlimited upside with starting a business, a potential for growth and wealth creation that simply does not happen as easily or perhaps at all. In a traditional job, that is the truth. I decided to take the more traditional path early in my career, and because of that, I have learned an immense amount. I have accumulated a pretty nice investment portfolio, which gives me a good financial cushion, and I have met some truly great and intelligent people along the way. People who have influenced me positively. Although I do not know what the future holds, And I am not sure if I will venture back into entrepreneur land at some point. I have definitely experienced the many benefits of a traditional job. And honestly, I would recommend it in many situations, especially for those just starting out or needing stability. Let me know your thoughts down below and tell me if you prefer a job or a business. I am really curious to hear your perspectives.